Just last week, Atari announced the 7800 Plus coming winter of 2024, and many fans were hoping for something else, something a little bit different. I even discussed here last week that the new Atari Plus Platform initiative all but guarantees the 7800 Plus isn't the last in the line of these things to be released. So, Atari, if you're listening, I want to make my case in this video for why the Intellivision Plus makes the most sense to release next. Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John and I am a Gen X grown-up. Thank you for taking the time to click on this video. So when the 7800 Plus was released, as I said in the previous video, a lot of folks said, why not the 5200? Why not the Jaguar? Why not the Lynx? Go back to the handheld. And I think those are probably more obvious and they are Atari branded. But I think they don't make as much sense as an Intellivision Plus. Look, I want these. I want those eventually to be available. I want small versions of those to play physical cartridges. I want all of that. But first of all, I think there's a little, as evidenced by the release of the 7800 Plus, there's a little Atari console fatigue. If there weren't, no one would say, oh, it's the same as the 2600 Plus. I think there's a feeling that the audience wants something a little bit different, a little bit, something they haven't seen over and over and over. Jaguar, fantastic platform, great opportunity to make something that's underserved. But because you're using physical media, only about 50 games out there for the Jaguar. You'd have to rely, and they're very expensive by the way, and you'd have to rely on Atari to do re-releases. The 5200, a little more available, but only about 60 games for it. The Lynx, which I love. I'd love to see a modern handheld Lynx, and maybe we're going to get something like it before the end of the year. Don't know, waiting to see. But even that only had about 70 titles. And unlike 2600, and to a lesser extent the 7800, those cartridges for those are much harder to find. When I travel and visit other places and I go to game stores, I always see a stack of 2600 cartridges, but Jaguar, almost never. 5200, maybe. Lynx, almost never. So something that plays physical cartridges, it's not like you're going to run up to your game store and get a stack of them because they're just harder to find, they're more expensive. And as I noted, way fewer of them. Look, I bet we get all of those someday, but I don't think it makes sense to go next. So let's talk about introducing some fresh material. I'm a huge Atari fan, but how excited can I get about another way to play Centipede? Another Asteroids version, another Missile Command. All classics, but they're oversaturated. Just like the superhero fatigue that we've been feeling in the theaters and movies, we want something a little different. We don't hate superheroes, we don't hate Asteroids and Missile Command, but we'd like something else to cleanse our palate before the next thing rolls around. So, just, May of this year, Atari acquired not only Intellivision as a name and the platform, but more than 200 games that they now have the rights to redistribute, I'm guessing re-release, all that stuff. And even if it wasn't something that they made, so they put out on Intellivision Plus, right, let's say, and you could play physical cartridges with it, I see complete in-box Intellivision games at the flea market. I see them at way more than I see Jaguar or Lynx or 5200 stuff, and cheap. Like I picked up a Astro Smash for, is that the Intellivision version? Whatever, Astro Blast Smash, I think it's Smash. I picked up one of those boxed for like $5 the other day. And manuals in there, the inserts were in there. Plus, despite the availability of Intellivision stuff, Atari, there's an opportunity for revenue there. You can reissue all of those carts that you have licensed to, what, 200 or some of them? And by the way, if you want to make a killing, put them out at like a $20 price point. You don't need to be $35 for everything. Not everything has to be a special edition. Make a budget release of these Intellivision cartridges. Look, consider them second-class citizens. They're not Atari, they're Intellivision. We own it, but it's not quite us. Make them cheaper. $20, $25 maybe. And include the stuff you need. The manual, you have to have those keypad overlays for a lot of games. Plus, if you want to be a good steward of the Intellivision brand, offer those as a separate purchase. What if I have a physical copy of a game and don't have those inserts? Give me a way to buy those for, $2 or $3 a piece. I think there's a lot of revenue to be made by nickel and diming us on small Intellivision stuff versus huge blasts of great big re-release titles. You got the Intellivision name, plus you have all those games. There's so much you can do with it. Now, there are huge rewards, I think, available, but there are some challenges. So keep in mind that the Intellivision, the Plus line, the Intellivision Plus, would play physical media, as we were discussing. So if you're going to 80% size, you have some challenges, right? So how am I going to handle the size of that cartridge slot on the side? I think we can work that out. Need to make sure you bake in IntelliVoice, because so many games required that. Don't make that an option or an add-on, just include it in. And if the Plus, like previous ones, is going to be emulation, well, why not have IntelliVoice baked in, because you can do that in emulation today. You also have some challenges when it comes to the controllers. First, the controllers you probably want to have full size, but they nested into the console. So do you make the console full size, or do you make the controllers out of scale with the console? You have challenges, but outside of the scale of the controller, you have to decide what to do with that disc that was on the took place of a joystick on the Intellivision. Do you stay true to that disc? Do you put a joystick on top of it that screws in or something? Do you reinvent it? But maybe you offer a wireless version that has a reimagined controller. There are plenty of ways to improve on the Intellivision controller, and I think you and PlayOn can figure it out. Okay, let's talk about the rewards of doing the Intellivision Plus. And I think they are huge. We talked about the fatigue of Atari consoles coming out. This gives a palate cleanser. If you are already an Intellivision fan, you already know that you are hugely underserved. There aren't a whole bunch of ways to play Intellivision games, especially not to play physical media that you might own. So this is going to be a service to Intellivision fans, giving them something that they probably thought they would never see, which is a modern Intellivision like Atari is seeing. So huge opportunity there. What about Atari fans like me? Maybe you don't even know what you're missing in the Intellivision library. That was me 6 months ago. I had no idea the quality, the fun that's in the Intellivision library, because I never even had a friend that had an Intellivision. But over the last 6 months since Atari acquired Intellivision, I've been exploring the library and finding games that are almost like discovering a lost cousin that you never knew and getting to know, all the things that they know. Each game that I discover in the Intellivision that I never played back in the 70s and 80s is like opening a little time capsule from the early days of gaming that was sealed until 2024 or 2025, and you open it, because those games have the same design sensibilities, similar limitations. You have to use your imagination in the same way. A lot of cross-pollination of developers, like Magic and Activision, they put out stuff for it, seeing different versions of those games. There's so much to be discovered in Intellivision if you did not already have it. So whether you were a fan and this Plus would give you a way to play games that you thought you couldn't play on a modern TV anymore, or you're not a fan, Atari knew what they were doing, buying the Intellivision Plus and buying, sorry, not the Plus, the Intellivision, and buying all of those games, because it's a huge library of really good and interesting games that I would say probably fully a quarter of the gaming public only ever saw them. There was everybody's seen Atari 2600 games, everybody's seen what Atari does in their arcade stuff, but Intellivision lived in a little bubble that burst in '83 along with everything else, and it didn't have resurgences outside of little pop-up games like, little plug-in TV games. Other than that, there's been no support for Intellivision. So while yes, I'm sure you hear the cry for a 5200, for a Jaguar, for a Lynx, things like that, that is my reasoning for why I think an Intellivision Plus makes the best choice for the next Plus console that Atari should release. What do you think? I'm sure I didn't state every case as clearly as I could. Probably some things I didn't think of. What are the counter arguments? Why do you think that's not a good idea? Or do you agree? That's exactly what that comment section is for. Let me know what you think. Would you be interested in exploring the Intellivision library if a Plus were to be released? Would you be more inclined to pick it up than that 7800 Plus or another similar console if that's what came out next? I think these are the things that Atari would like to know. More importantly, it's something that I'm interested in hearing from you. So let me know. In the meantime, of course, links are on my shoulders here and here to previous videos that I've released. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.